of your Wairua tapu, for the deep, deep healing of your whenua, your awa, your moana, a deep healing that will enable her to support life for all again. Yes, a more simple and less exploitative life where all people can flourish. Today, as this council meets to make decisions about this place that they are the key custodians of, we pray for the healing of the land, the rivers and the ocean, and that may be at the forefront of all that they decide, so that this rohi may continue to support life, flourishing life for all, both the place and the people who dwell here. E roto I te ingoa o ihu karaete. Amine.
Kia ora, ngā mihi nui. Thank you very much, Joel. Lovely to see you. You're very welcome to stay with us for a bit longer, or whatever suits you on your busy schedule. But lovely to see you, and thank you for sharing that karakia with us. Well, have we got a waiata for Joel? Yes, I think we have. Ambassador, or you taking the lead? And thank you, Councillor Hiki. Well, that was wonderful. Isn't it great that we've got all this amazing talent around our table? Can I just, apologies and leave of absence. We have Councillor Lawson on bereavement leave. We have Councillor Redstone and Councillor Nepi who are unwell today. Any further leave of absence required?
Request leave of absence 30th of September to 30th of October.
Thank you, Councillor Corbin. Councillor Kerr.
Thank you, Your Worship. July 2021, Thursday and Friday, please.
Thank you, Councillor Kerr. Anybody else? Thank you. Happy to move from the chair that those apologies and leave of absence be accepted. Moved by Councillor Watkins, seconded by Councillor Nixon. All those in favour? I was going to say Dixon, but I didn't. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Any against? Thank you. That's carried. Just remind everybody as we come through conflicts of interest, we address them on each item in the usual way. Confirmation of minutes that have been circulated. Item 4, no minutes to confirm, that's good. And now for the mayoral update. You're up there. Councillor Kerr, you've got something here? Oh, cool. So it has been a very busy period. And can I just start by acknowledging the owners of 1,404 properties across the Herutonga, Hastings, Rohi, who have had their provisional category for their property placed into a category after Cyclone Gabrielle. And we are working very closely with our partners, the Regional Council, and the impacted residents in a series of community-focused meetings in Hui, and been held in many parts in the last couple of weeks, assisted by our new community connectors who joined us this month. I and some other councils have attended a number of these, and while this work has been our key priority the past month and a half since our full council met, it has been a very busy time as we make sure our community has the support that they need at this very, very difficult and challenging time. There's been lots of wonderful highlights and community events, and a number of councillors joined me with the Hawke's Bay Cultural Festival on Sunday, which was a beautiful event celebrating probably with about 300 of our multicultural community, and it was lovely to see the councillors who joined me for that, and what a wonderful showcase of our multicultural community that we celebrate in Hiritonga Hastings. We had the Wine Capitals launch, and Councillor Corbyn joined me to that launch. We are now one of 12 wine capitals in the world, and so there was an ambassador from Spain, and he joined us, and Councillor Harvey joined us, and it was a wonderful, wonderful celebration and to be one of these, and the opportunities for Hawke's Bay to be New Zealand's representative in the wine capitals of the world is significant. We had the Paki Paki Church celebration, and Councillor Jessup and Councillor Barrow enjoyed a fascinating and very moving celebration of the 100 years Ruka Tapu Paki Paki Soldiers Memorial Church of St Luke's, designed by James Chapman Taylor. It's such a beautiful church and steeped in history, and it was amazing to find out that the women's temperance movement meetings were held there way back, and also the women's suffrage meetings were held there in that church in Paki Paki. So it was the church was full, and it was a very special occasion. We've had many bridge openings, and our rural districts have gone through an incredibly difficult time. So last month we welcomed the opening of the State Highway 2, linking our brothers and sisters from Wairoa to our communities, both in Hastings and Napier, with the rest of Hawke's Bay, and the new Bailey Bridge at Waikari was opened. And we've also blessed the Manga Tutu Bailey Bridge, and also blessed the Moyangiyangi Bailey Bridge, and the Estelle Bridge, well, it was opened, but it has suffered in the weekend storm events. So it's been last weekend was a very challenging time again for everybody. We had a wonderful coronation with Hastings Ambassador Hinari to celebrate King Charles III with the tree planting and unveiling of a very special plaque in Cornwall Park. And it was just a lovely bringing community together. We had a Fijian delegation, and to meet the Fijian leaders, and the relationship between Hastings and Fiji is strong, with Fiji RSE workers making a huge contribution to our district's income by assisting with the annual harvest, and the pilot of RSE since 2014 is now up to 600 Fijian workers that come to our district every year. We had the Hawke's Bay Regional Prison new building opening, and it was wonderful to enjoy, and with Hastings Ambassador Hinari and Kaumatua Papageri at the Hawke's Bay Prison's new building opening. The new staff facility and was much needed to help the team, and it's great to see our team from our prison here, the volunteers who will join us to talk a bit later on. We had lunch with the Prime Minister and Minister Robertson, which was an opportunity to talk to the Prime Minister about our enormous challenges that we face post-cyclone, and with our region's leaders, and discuss our region's needs at the Regional Sports Park on Mother's Day. Hiritonga Takotonoa has been a great first wānanga with our Hiritonga Takotonoa Māori Standing Committee, and the committee was officially sworn in just a little time ago. It was last week or the week before, so that was fantastic. So John Kerwin came down as a Westpac ambassador, and he gave an inspirational talk at Toi Toi and at Kereru for looking after our community's mental wellbeing through this really difficult time. We had the wonderful Entertainment Venues Association of New Zealand National Conference, where 70 venue managers enjoyed seeing our beautiful Toi Toi and at their annual conference. It was a good opportunity to talk to some of the managers and look at opportunities for future events at Toi Toi. The beautiful Cornwall Park community space, we were thrilled to open our refurbished Cornwall Park community space. available for all of our community to hire and use. It's also the home for a Changing Places accessible bathroom, which is the first in Hawke's Bay, and it'll make life much easier for many of our community with multiple and complex disabilities. And how amazing that new home looks, and congratulations to our staff who've worked so hard on that. The Samoan Friendship Agreement with Chief Executive To'osavili Nigel Bickle and I travelled to Samoa to sign the Friendship Agreement with Whaleilili District, further strengthening our ties with an area where so many of our RSE workers come from the harvest come here to harvest our crops each year. While I was there, I was honoured to be bestowed a chiefly title of To'osavili by the village of Pōtasi. We also attended a trade delegation of local horticultural leaders and representatives, iwi representatives and trade commissioners who attended the We Trade Business Summit in Apia. It was a great chance to explore and discuss other mutual development opportunities as a sister district relationship with the village of Whaleilili as we look at options for trade, community development, education, health, welfare and planning. And our strong ties now with Samoa are stronger than ever. It was an absolute honour to attend with Councillor Kevin Watkins to receive his Queen's Service Medal for services to our Hastings community and his commitment to the New Zealand-China relations. So very well deserved, Kevin. Well, we have enjoyed our citizenship ceremonies, and it was the largest one in my time as mayor, and we had 75 new citizens to welcome. And then the following week we had another 30. So, you know, over 100 new Kiwis have come into Heretaunga Hastings and have those celebrations. And thank you to Ambassador, because that was a very big night to get through with all of our new Kiwis, but very, very special. We enjoyed, Councillor Sholem and Councillor Jessup and I, a wonderful breakfast with the International Women's Day and hosted by the Hastings City Business Association. It was very special. We had a fantastic Independence Day for Samoa, and we had the chamber absolutely chocker. Next year everybody wants to go to the regional sports park because we haven't got enough room in here for all of our Samoan community to celebrate Independence Day. But it was wonderful to see the schools from Flaxmere and Mahora who performed, and just everybody celebrating independence of Samoa. The focus on breakfast with Brad Olsen shared his insights, which was very, very good for us to understand our immediate long-term future post-cyclone. And he gave us hope and inspiration as a community as we work through this very challenging time. The sod turning and Papakainga opening at both Waipatu and Omahu was such a thrill for me, and 24 new Papakainga homes. This is the way of the future for our whānau to be owning their own home on whenua, Māori whenua. And what a beautiful session we had and celebration with Councillor Jessup and myself at those beautiful openings. We had an interfaith service held at St Matthew's Church, and once again many of our community have been fundraising for our Hawke's Bay Cyclone Relief Disaster Relief Fund, and this lovely service that Councillor Watkins joined me with to share from the region's leaders and to contribute to that disaster relief fund. It was another opportunity for the community to be able to contribute to that fund, and so that money gets out to our most impacted communities. The Watties Family Fun Days have been absolutely incredible, and I've attended a lot of them, or there's been 4 now, but I've attended 3. And Watties have been amazing the way they've supported our communities in that very hard-hit areas. And it's just lovely to bring the communities together and just to be able to celebrate, have some fun, and we're very, very grateful of Watties' contribution as we move forward. And the last, but certainly not least, on Friday night I dropped in to welcome the team of our new Quest Hotel, and it is already full. So they're having a special opening in July, but our first accommodation hotel in Hastings in many, many years. The team that are running it, just fantastic. And so everyone will be invited to official welcome and opening, but I dropped in to welcome them and say hello on Friday night. So, as I say, it's been a fantastic month, a busy month, and also a very, very challenging month as we support our community through some really, really difficult times. Happy to move from the chair that my verbal update is received. I have a seconder, please. Councillor Jessup. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you, that's carried. Now it is my very great pleasure to welcome the Kaiwhakamana program and volunteers, and I know that Hinari's got a presentation. It was an absolute honour to attend the recent induction of the Kaiwhakamana volunteers at the Hawke's Bay Prison and to hear the amazing mahi that they are doing. And that's all I'm going to say because I think you've got a great presentation and we're all ready to go. Cool. Thank you, Lynn.
Give to me, it makes me fine. Every little word that you say to me keeps my heart on time. Red blood flowing like a rough rapid when you are near. Ain't no doubt, 'cause it's plain to see. You set us soul.
Kaiwhakamana unity and walls made as 40 of us. In God we trust. Our biggest threat to us is us. Failure to act, in this case, failure to bust. Inside, I bring the wine, bring the love to the listener. I see a brother and not another prisoner. Maybe then we can reduce the crime rate. Another threat to Kaiwhakamana is our mind state. We were born.
Thank you very much. Kia ora tātou ngā mihi whakatau e te tangata ki roto e te whare e tū nei. Oh, the aroma of local government is intoxicating.
Your name was mentioned many times in my report.
It was, and I really appreciated that, Your Worship. Yeah. Look, kia ora tātou. I hope you're all well. What a pleasure and privilege to be here. I don't want to monopolise proceedings. This certainly isn't a one-man band, although you may get that impression. But I'm here. I'm here. It got quite unruly since my absence from council. I'm here with some of the most benevolent, kindest, generous people I've ever had the pleasure of being associated with. That is not an overstatement. It is not an exaggeration. These people have put their own lives on hold, and they've gone behind the wire where many would fear to tread. They have taken on board the task of, well, I guess, healing and restoring and uplifting what outside would deem not very good human beings. But bad things happen when good people just sit back and do nothing. And so we've taken, it's an absolute privilege to be here with them all. I won't name them one at a time, but it's so humbling when you go in there and we always say they weren't born like that. There's no such thing as a bad baby. I know it goes against the grain of public opinion. I know that. But that makes us even more determined. makes us even more determined. So these are the kaifaka and we are putting the mana back into pink. That's what we're doing. Here we are. We were adamant. We didn't want to look like prison officers. What's our point of difference? So we chose the colour pink. So when our friends in there, the residents of Her Majesty's government, see us coming in the distance, they see that pink kakahu coming along, immediately they're at ease. They know there's a friend on the way. There's someone with compassion, someone who's going to listen, someone who's not going to judge, not going to condemn, and we don't give them any guarantees or any promises. We're just there to listen and be a friend, not only inside the wire, but with their families outside the wire. We now have the biggest contingent in New Zealand in terms of kaifaka. So homai te paki paki. Yeah. And they're all volunteers. You know, they don't have to be there. They're there out of the goodness of their hearts. They all are. And again, this is not a one-man band. So it's a powerful role. They can go into any prison in the country to see anybody. The only other person can do that is the Minister of Corrections, Calvin Davis. That's how high an echelon it's been exalted to. They can go in any prison, anywhere, and we're going to do that. So in the visits that we've had there thus far, it's just been amazing. And apologies for Prison Director George Messingham, he's away in Palmerston North, but we have an even better looking, the Deputy Director of the regional prison, Tony Denton. Look, that's all I'm going to say for now. We'd welcome any questions after. You know some of those individuals there, Barney Tiema, and of course the rugby league legend Kevin Tamati, and of course Pastor Michael Ngahuka, and others. I don't want to single anybody out. And I'll go into battle with these folks any day of the week. But really what it's all about, and you know this, it's about love. That's it, plain and simple. How do you legislate that? How do you put that in a KPI and output? That's really what it's all about. And that love will be tested to the nth degree. It will be tested and it'll be tried and manipulated if they could and facilitated to meet their own cause. But these people didn't come down in the last shower. They're mums and dads and grandparents and they're self-employed, etc., etc. So that's all I'm going to say for now. But it's indeed my pleasure and my privilege to bring to the podium Mr. Tony Denton, a good man.
Tony.
Thank you. Kia ora. Kia ora tātou, Your Worship, councillors. Yes, apologies from the Prison Director, George Messingham. He has another commitment today, so you've got me. And as Hanare said, I'm not, no power on George, and I would assume he would probably do a much better job in highlighting kaifaka mana than I will. But what I would say, and I'll start off by going, is we are extremely, extremely proud of our kaifaka mana group. And as Hanare said, we do have the largest contingent. But I want to start off with a little bit of history about kaifaka mana and the prison. Just very, very briefly. Kaifaka mana is not new to the prison estates. It's been around for 20 plus years, but it's been sitting as a passive service, volunteers throughout the prison, throughout the estate, up until about 2 years ago when the department decided the value of the service needed to be celebrated. It needed to be put on a pedestal and it needed to be highlighted and committed and invested in. And who better to do that for us, to be perfectly honest, than Henare himself. So we've stolen your ambassador and made him our own ambassador in kaifaka mana. And he is, for the last 2 years, he has been doing a fabulous job working alongside us. And right now we have 30 plus kaifaka mana volunteering within our space. Now, Hastings can be extremely proud because I would say 90% of those 30 are Hastings community members, and that is extremely, extremely important, and we are very, very proud of it. As Hanare said, it is a volunteer service. It is a service that these people give up their time to come in and work alongside our guys in our care. We have the unfortunate reality that We are going through a growth in the amount of people in our care. And later next month, we'll open up another 40 bed. So the more investment, time and energy we put into addressing the needs of those men, the better. And our kaiwhakamana serve a huge commitment and contribution to that. So I guess what we're here today to do is highlight the service that your community members, our kaiwhakamana, are doing within the prison, to raise the profile. And if there's any which way the council can get behind and support them in their endeavours, we would certainly appreciate that. To quote my prison director, the more we invest in the people, everybody is going to be released at some stage and they're going to come back into our community. So the more we can invest now, we can send them out better or bitter. So we'll invest as much as we possibly can. I just hope you, that we all get behind it and support it. Kia ora.
Oh, thank you, Katie. Just briefly, that video, and Your Worship, of course, thank you for coming inside the wire and presenting these beautiful kakahu of ours. It was quite a day inside the wire when you stood there, because you recognised what it's all about. That video that you saw, we had a retreat in Tūrangi at a great man called Sam Chapman. If you haven't heard about Sam Chapman, well, he's in this space, the judiciary space, he can almost walk on water. So we had a 2-day retreat with Sam. He bought the defunct hospital in Tūrangi. He purchased that, and we stayed with him for 2 days. And that 2 days was about getting to know one another, checking out the why, the how. And I tell you what, I can honestly say we came back different people. We came back tighter. And on the way through, the mayor heard we were in town, so he gave us a Merrill's reception. What a neat guy. He's a bit like you. He's a really neat guy. So he welcomed us in. We had the police there, etc. And it was just a great 2 days. So just in case you're wondering about that video, that's what it was all about. Any questions?
Yes, could you tell everybody about your artwork on your sleeve of your jacket? Thank you.
We were talking about that just the other day, actually. Yeah.
Martin Huni.
Martin Hone, what's the other fellow name? Nicol. Sorry, I've forgotten his name. Lionel Nicol. Two young men that are... Oh, before I go to that, this is just a continuation of Te Mataua Maui out there. You remember when they brought that into the chamber? And we were all on tender hooks. We weren't quite knowing what to expect. Not a dry eye in the whare. Well, this is a continuation of that, Te Mataua Maui. We ran a bit of a competition out there, didn't we, Tony? So the inmates came to the fore and they threw in all their designs. And these two here were shown. Doesn't they look great? They look great. And so, put it in a nutshell, it's male, female, and bringing them together. One's no good without the other. Male and female replenish and multiply the earth, but replenish and multiply love and compassion and forgiveness. That's what this is about. Goes a lot deeper than that, but and this here, within the next month or so, will adorn the entrance to the prison as you come in. You'll see a gigantic replica of this. And so, yeah, does that answer your question, Your Worship? Anybody else?
Anyone else got any questions or comments?
Are those fellas up there?
Councillor Deputy Mayor?
Kia ora, Henare, and your team. What I'd be really interested in is what would a typical day be like or interaction be like with kaiwhakamana and the men inside the prison?
Okay. Would anyone up there like to answer that? Anybody? Ned? Come on, good man, Ned. Hop on the mic, brother. Just so you know, we have 3 of our men have been residents of Her Majesty's government. So we've really pushed the boundaries to make that change.
Kia ora tātou. So I was one of them I went up to Mount Eden, Paremaremo, and then came back around. And they put me into the Unit 5, the multi-focus unit. And that's when my life changed. What a beautiful, beautiful unit it was. A multi-focus unit, unheard of, the first in the country. And so, whilst I was in there, I spent about 2.5 years in there. I learnt a lot. A great deal. I learnt a lot about myself. I learnt a lot about my background. I learnt a lot about my ancestors. I learnt a lot about Heavenly Father. You know, that was the beauty of it all. I had time to learn. Time wasn't wasted there. I learnt that to be able to prepare for the outside, I had to, look at new things. And so I looked at all these available structures that were in there, that were placed in there for us to partake of. So it wasn't anybody that was sent in there at that time. It was, we were chosen to go in there. We were scanned, our backgrounds were scanned, how we were doing prior to going into that special unit. And because of that unit, when I got out, I found it was hard to get work, but finally, I just took anything, because I knew it is what it is. People have different thoughts about interviewing an ex-inmate, because they're going to ask you, if you had done any crime and all that. So it was hard to get work, but I finally, through the grace of God, I was able to get some work, honourable work. I worked in mental health, so I had to go to EIT for that. So I worked in mental health. I worked for Kaitiaki in Hastings here. And now I've done all the little bits and everything else. And I finally got married last year. So, all these things have, prior to me going into the prison, I was like, I had good parents. But, I just couldn't get my head around things because of drugs, because of alcohol, and because of the type of people I was hanging with. But hey, like Hinari says, everybody was a baby once, So, at the end of the day, it was up to me. We all have free agency, and depending on which way you want to go. So I took the low road, and then, ended up in jail. And by saying that, it was kind of a blessing. I think if I didn't end up in jail and go into their multi-focus unit, and a lot of people can argue their point, debate about that, I wouldn't be here standing in front of you today.
Good indeed.
And so I'll just thank you, everybody. Cheers.
Great. And I've always said to Ned, that story, keep telling that story is of no value unless you give it away. And that's the bridge people will walk across from their heart to yours. You're a good man, Ned. You're a good man, and I love you, brother. You're a great man. So in conclusion, because I know you've got a lot to get through, here's a few words I'll leave you with. I hope you like this. It goes like this. I'm quite committed to memory. If this is the true joy in life, the being used for a purpose, considered by yourself as mighty, the being a force of nature instead of a feverish, selfish little claw of all ailments and grievances, complaining that the world will not devote itself to making you happy. We're of the opinion that our life belongs to the entire community. And while we live, it is our privilege to do for it whatever we can. We want to be thoroughly used up when we die, because the harder we work, the more we live. We rejoice in life for its own sake. Life is no brief candle to us. It's a sort of splendid torch that we've got a hold of for the moment. And we want to make it burn as brightly as possible before handing it on to future generations. And for that I say amen and amen before singing our waiata. Thank you, everybody. Life's too damn short to be bitter and twisted. We've got to start loving one another. We have to. We've got no choice. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make us happy when skies are gray. You never know, dear, how much I love you. I'll be the take our sunshine away. The other night here, as we lay sleeping, I dreamt I held you in my arms. When we awoke here, we were mistaken. So we have our head and we cry. Here we go, everybody. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make us happy when skies are gray. You never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take our sunshine away. Good to know you. Whoa, yeah. Thank everybody. God bless you. Wonderful day.
Wow, how amazing to have you back and the amazing volunteers in our chamber today. Thank you for your incredible mahi that you're doing for us, for our people. And, you know, thank you for the beautiful kōrero and all of the stunning work you're doing. And keep doing it, please. You know, we want to see our people coming out in a place that is that they are feeling empowered and can get on with their lives. So that's that empowerment that you're giving them. Kia ora koutou.
Barbecue, Twyford Hall, Friday, 3:30 p.m. Community barbecue. And of course Saturday morning. 10 o'clock. We'll see you there.
See you there. Thanks, everybody. Lovely to see you. Thank you for filling our chamber up with so much joy. Happy to move that we, and Councillor Butto has seconded the report, our kaiwhakamanas and the amazing voluntary service that they're giving our community. I'll put that, all those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you, that's carried. Item number 7, our Tuia program for 2023. We've got Casey Corns and Javan Tipani Namotu. Please come forward. The boys have been waiting for this for a very long time, and I'm sorry that it's taken us half the year to introduce you to our councillors. And so this is a wonderful community, and our team have been to the Tuia Wānangas, and they, I'm not sure if you've seen all their profiles and read them, outstanding young men in our community and young future Māori leaders. So we are with great delight that we welcome you to our chamber today, our leaders today and the future. Kia ora. Now, have you got, you just,
Kia ora tātou. I'll just introduce ourselves, so you get to know a bit more about us. But yeah. Pāpa ki tuana ngā tai ki maua, I neke neke hia, I nuku nuku hia. If you are rere tia e hotu, a wahine rua ki te wai ki tau iwi, ki tau awa, ki te whai au, ki te ao marama, a tihe mauri ora. A tēnā koutou, ko Casey kohu tōku ingoa. No tauranga moana, ka oku tīpona engari I tupake au ki kōnei, ki here taunga, anei ahau, anei maua, e mihi ake nei, kia kōrua, kia koutou katoa, ngā kai kaumihira o here taunga, haro te kāhu, here taunga ararau, here taunga takato noa, here taunga whenua haumako. Kia ora, my name's Casey Corns, and grew up in Hastings. It's a privilege to meet you. Never realised that we could actually come in here and have a look and stuff. So to see you, to see all you guys are looking respectable and esteemed. It's a privilege to be here. And thank you.
Tēnā rā tātou, ko ai ahau. Ka whaipaki aku o ku wai te taumata o tōku mai o ko kahu rānaki. Ka te tira o whakararo ahau ki taku wai tuku kiri, ki tuki I rērere haere ana. Ka whakamaua taku tātua, ka tere taku wako o tā kitumu, I ringa I ngā wai. Ka tau te waka ki taku pā, ko mate hiwi te marae. Ko te matawa māwi te pātaka I ringa kōrero, ara, ko hine taranga, te pātaka kai. Eri tēnei no māwi tiki a taranga, ko Ngāti Hawe te apu, ko Ngāti Kahunguni te iwi, ne ka nei a karaiti ana taku mua nei mihi ake nei ti hei mauri ora. Kia ora tātou, ko Jayvan tuku ingoa, e noho ana ahau ki Waipureku e. So my name is Jayvan, everyone. Very humbling and very privileged to be here today to meet one another. As Casey said before, I don't think we both think we'll be standing in this room today and be able to see the beauty of the chamber today. So, kia ora ngā tātou katoa.
Kia ora, team. I don't know if everybody has seen the profiles of Casey and Jayvan. Have you read them? You've seen those and read them. I think that I'd just like you to share with our council your aspirations. I know that you probably didn't think you had to do this, and I haven't seen you for a couple of weeks, but you've got amazing vision and aspirations for the future of our people, and it would just be lovely if you shared those. Thank you.
Serious. Well, I guess I'll go first. Growing up in Hastings and Hawke's Bay, it's a pretty diverse community. Background, I'm a teacher, I'm a kaiako. I had a school called Te Aratika Academy in Whakatu and Clive, right where Mangatiri Primary School is. We're on the same block, but we're a high school. We've got about 40 to 50 young boys that had a tumultuous upbringing. That some of them could very easily be seeing our mates from Kaifwhakamana in a couple of years. So that's what I do for a job. I teach Maurako Māori weaponry. I teach Māori pūrākau, Māori stories, and a little bit of NCA maths, because why not? But that's what I do on a day-to-day basis. It's my passion, our culture, those sort of things, and our youth, our rangatahi. And so I've got a couple of goals, couple of visions for the near future and for the long-term future as well. Some of them being, I want to make the first bilingual barber shop in New Zealand. So a place where you can come in, you can speak Māori if you're fluent, or your barbers are fluent too. If you're just trying to learn a little bit here and there, you can come in and the barber goes to a level just above you in terms of language. I noticed that there's not really an opportunity if you speak Māori to speak Māori if you don't work in those sort of environments. Another one too is I want to start doing facilitating, going into schools and teaching our young men and women Māori culture, bringing them back from gang culture to Māori culture. So just facilitating those sort of things, teaching them that sometimes we have traits and characteristics and they're not always bad. If we look at certain stories like Maui and other people, he wasn't a bad fellow. He was just a hautatu, he was just naughty. And if you apply yourself correctly, you might be able to tame the sun or fish up some new land or whatever else. But those are a couple of my goals. Thank you.
Awesome,
Kia ora, Casey. First, tērā te mihi ki a koe, Casey, mō tō aspirations and goals. I'm I might actually hit you up a bit later because I'm on the journey as well to learning te reo Māori as well. So, kia ora. My goals and aspirations don't really tend to focus on that, but I guess the end goal for me is to leave a mist when I'm gone. So the whakaaro behind the mist is you can see it, but you cannot touch it, only you can acknowledge it. So the whakaaro behind that just a little bit more is basically we have leaders in our past, our world leaders, such as Martin Luther King Jr. He left a great legacy for the African American people back in America. So that's sort of a pathway that I would like to head towards for our people and tell Aotearoa. But I guess as well is just the way I want to go about it is not just by myself. As Māori, we work together. So I'm never focused on doing things by myself, but as a collective, he waka eke noa. That's a little bit about me.
Well, anybody have any questions? We had a presentation last council meeting from Sinead from Wellington and telling us what she's doing a year on. So, so we look forward to supporting you through your two-year journey and making sure that you're getting all the support you need, and our Takatiwi Ward councillors are going to be, we're working together. And Henry, you would like to make a comment or ask any questions?
He tuhemi aki kia kōrua i tēnei wā, hei whāki he o koutou whakaaro, e pāneki o tōtou nei harenga, nā reire e tuku mihi kia kōrua. Me te ureo o te Raitiana Takamona, nei te mahi o tō kraua nei, i roto i tēnei whare nā reira, e mi ana kia koe whai, titi kaurangi ki te tuahu koe me he maunga teitei. Me koe hoki he keisi tō mahi e pāne ki te akoa ngā mau rākau, a ngā huatanga o te ao Māori, e mi ana hoki kia koe he ako, he kai ako, he rangatira moa pōpō nā reira he tukumihi kia kora. Just want to stand and acknowledge you in this space for your mahi. They're both you who are the ambassadors of tomorrow, and just to acknowledge that your tupuna, Kraitiana Takamona, was a politician, and though you might not know what your role may be, it's in your whakapapa. Nā reira, I wish you all the best in your journeys moving ahead, because tomorrow our rangatahi need leadership and leaders. Tēnā kōrua.
Kia ora, thank you, Henry. Anybody else? Kelly, did you want to say? Councillor Jessup?
Nā mihi kōrua kia koutou I tēnei wā. I'd just like to acknowledge that these two are so spectacular in their presentation, their āhua, their whakaaro pai ki ngā tangata katoa. And I'd just like to say that on behalf of Renata, who's Māori at the moment, that we support you 100%, and we're looking forward to your tautoko to make sure that the next wānanga that's going to be held at Puki Moki Moki, that we're right beside you. Kia ora tātou.
Thank you, Kelly. Anybody else? Well, thank you. Wonderful to have you in the chamber today, and this will be the first of other visits, and with all full council, and for us to be able to share your journey and make sure that we are giving you the support you need, and we just look forward to sharing the next part of the journey and hearing about the wānangas and all the leadership learning that you're going to be given by everybody. So great to see you, and thank you so much for coming in today. It's awesome. We have breakfast soon. Right, I have a mover for the 2-year update. Thank you, Councillor Jessup, seconded Councillor Hickey. All those in favour, please say aye. Any against? Thank you, that's carried. Item number 8. Moving on to our agenda now is the adoption of the 23-24 annual plan, and this is the time that we strike the rates for our new councillors. This is it's a very, very important day. It's the consideration that our staff, our community have given us in terms of the direction that we take and what a rates rise actually means. And in order for us to consider what a rate rise should mean for our community, for us to be able to deliver the services, the programs, the infrastructure that they need, it is a very important day, and it actually takes huge amount of work. And I acknowledge all the staff that have put the work into undertaking our annual report, and I hand over now to Tort Civili Nigel Bickle, our Chief Executive, to just outline this year's 2023-2024 annual plan.
Kia ora, thank you, Worship, and through you, good afternoon, councillors. The annual plan this year, worth acknowledging, a little bit different. First time, I think, in our history that we didn't consult our community on the annual plan, and that reflected a couple of things that I think are relevant. When we came to you with the draft annual plan, we said, look, post-cyclone, there is just so much uncertainty about some of the costs that the council and our community are going to face, that we're proposing that we basically adopt an annual plan that's very consistent with year 3 of the LTP that was 5.7%, but acknowledge some things have changed. Some significant inflationary pressures, depreciation on water assets that have doubled in value, some decisions that the council had taken, so the maintenance costs associated with the decision to purchase the Tomoana Showgrounds. And you made a decision to consider adopting an annual plan at 8.5%, but we also went out to the community and talked about a targeted rate at Whakatū for stormwater, and you heard and deliberated on that, and I guess what's before you today, which is to adopt an annual plan at 8.7%, reflects your deliberations on directing the Chief Executive to get on and spend the $400,000 in terms of doing the detailed design for a stormwater solution at Whakatū that will be the subject of a future decision around proceeding and a targeted rate. So that's the draft annual plan. So I want to acknowledge that when we talked a couple of months ago, we said, look, there's so much uncertainty about some of what is facing our community post-cyclone. What I'd say is we're getting more certainty, which is going to create greater uncertainty around what is in front of the council and the council on behalf of our community around some really big challenges heading into the next time we do this, which is the long-term plan. So worth reflecting that a couple of months ago, we got on after the cyclone with things that were really important for our community. Let's get on and clean up the waste and the debris. Let's get on and stand up a task force with the regional council and start dealing with the silt. Let's get in there and support our community, and as the Mayor referenced in her mayoral report, all of the connectors that have been employed. Now, the good news is, in other council papers today, we'll recover a lot of the costs back through NEMA. We've had funding decisions from government where we will fully recoup all the costs that we've incurred in the clean-up of silt and debris. But we are also getting more certainty about what some of the future looks like for us and our community, which in turn is creating a lot of uncertainty and some really big challenges that are in front of this council table and ultimately our community about how we are going to deal with some of those costs. So I'm just going to touch on a few. We have got a sense that to fully repair the local Hastings transport network across roads and bridges and culverts is looking like circa a $800 million cost. Now, on current government policy settings around our funding rates, that is potentially a over $200 million currently unfunded local share of that bill that needs to be found. As you're aware, we are in a process at the moment with our communities in partnership with government around land classification. We have 239 properties currently provisionally in Category 3. We have, with the government, in the spirit of supporting those people being able to have options to deal with the risks they face. Said there will be a voluntary buyback scheme. We're negotiating with the government. What is clear, and it's a matter for public record, the Crown is saying we will not pay this bill ourselves. We are expecting a contribution from the community. Now, we're negotiating that. But to put this in context, the value of the 239 properties is $310 million. Now, what the number is net of insurance and how many people might want to take this up, how those costs might fall between government and local government, just another cost. As Mayor Sandra said, it's not just Category 3. We have over 1,000 people in Hastings in Category 2. For Category 2 to move to Category 1, there is going to need to be significant investment in flood protection, flood mitigation, secondary flow paths. Whilst that is the responsibility of the Regional Council, it is the same ratepayers that are going to face these challenges. So in some ways, whilst I stand presenting an annual report for 2023-2024 for you to adopt at 8.7%, I would make the observation that we will be not seeing those sorts of rates increases at that low level any time in our near future, unless we can find other sources of revenue, unless our community and that the choices that you make as those that are elected to represent them are going to talk about different levels of services, revisiting what we do. It is a challenging period of time in front of our community and a lot of the communities in Hawke's Bay, because we are facing significant costs to recover from Cyclone Gabriel. I think timely that the local government report landed last week and highlighted, and it's very true in our case, when you have largely only one lever, which is rates, even our ability, if we could, borrow this money, that the very real questions that will face this council in the coming year around the affordability from a ratepayer perspective to bear some of these costs are, whilst we're focused now about adopting this annual plan and striking this rate for the year ahead, it is in the context of there are some, as we get more certainty about the costs, the greater uncertainty about how we're going to deal with that as a council on behalf of the community of ratepayers. My last comment is, it is going to require some brave conversations around this table with our community, with staff. I took the opportunity as the Chief Executive to have an interview with Marty Sharp last week. Some of you may have seen the article, but I think it is going to be incumbent on us keeping our families and our communities at the centre of our decision making, also to challenge ourselves to some very different ways of how we might need to work in order to meet some of these challenges. But out of all of this, I remain optimistic. There are also opportunities. But with those comments, Your Worship, I take the report and the recommendations that are on the table for this year's annual report.
Thank you, Nigel. And so I'll take any questions. Did you want anything, Lex or Bruce? No, thank you. And this for us is a back to basics of local government. What is our role? It is three waters, it is roading, it is bridges, culverts, it is enabling industry to be able to succeed and employ our people. And that's what this annual plan is. So that is our core business, and that's what this annual plan will focus on. And this year we plan to deliver more than $100 million in infrastructure for our community. So that is our core business, and that's what this plan outlines. Deputy Mayor, Tania?
Thank you, Your Worship. Given this is the end of a process that's taken a long time, I'm more than happy to move the recommendations.
Thank you. Have a seconder, Councillor Butto. Any other comments? Any questions to the staff on any of the items in the annual plan? Okay, thank you. I'll put those recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? That is carried. Thank you. Thank you to the team for the enormous amount of work that's gone into this year's annual plan. Item number 10. Sorry. Oh, item number 9. Councillor Kerr.
Your Worship, this is the final part of the puzzle, so
Yes.
I'm more than happy to move these recommendations, and it's the legal framework for setting the rates.
Thank you. Richard, do you want to say anything? You just say, standing poised. Thank you. Councillor Hickey.
Happy to second the recommendations.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Councillor Dixon.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. For many people out there, 8.7% is going to be really tough. We all appreciate that. Would someone explain how the rate remission scheme works for those that will be in financial hardship, so that they get a full understanding?
Through you, Your Worship, I'll ask Mr Allen to comment on that, and also, given recent decisions that we're consulting on, also how rates remittance will
For our cyclone
for our
impacted
cyclone impacted communities would also work.
Yeah, thank you.
Through Your Worship. So you do have a rates remission policy and a rates postponement policy, and for those ratepayers that are experiencing hardship, the rates postponement policy is something that our team can work with those residents on and support them through a time of difficulty. With the rates remission policy and the changes that they're currently consulting on, so that's taking the current approach we've had since Cyclone Gabriel of providing rate remission for red and yellow stickered properties and providing an additional layer of support in that policy to allow those with significantly impacted land to sort of seek remission on their rates as well. So that'll be not quite as a black and white process as the red and yellow stickered properties to work through for the rates team, but a mechanism for those property owners that have been really significantly impacted on their land to seek remission of rates as well.
Thank you. When does that process close? The feedback?
5 p.m. on Tuesdays, the consultation
Tuesday.
period closes, and
Right,
then we'll
great.
bring the report back on the 20th of July.
20th of July? Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Nixon?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. The increase in rates individuals will pay are determined by two things. One is the percentage that we increase the rate take by, but secondly by land valuations. And I think we're in the process of a new valuation be determined. So when is that likely to come out so that people can start to get a real measure of what they might be up for? And while you're answering that, have we got an estimate of average what this might mean per ratepayer?
Through Your Worship. So the rating values are out and they're on the QV website. How that impacts on individual properties, that is yet to be uploaded onto the system. Staff are currently working through that at the moment. Fair to say that, through any revaluation process, and this happens every 3 years, it genuinely doesn't fall uniformly across the district. There will always be pockets where valuation increases are greater than the average, or lower than average. And this revaluation process is exactly the same. The shift this time, and the imposition shift, is more to residential ratepayers, away from commercial, industrial, and the smaller hort farming areas. So you will be seeing some larger rates increases because of the revaluation process on Hastings ratepayers in particular, but also in other areas like Clive, to a lesser degree Flaxmere. But certainly and this is all about averages too. It's really difficult to get down to a granular level because how the rates fall, whether it's through targeted rates or through more of an imposition through the general rate, it does fall quite differently on properties. And the land value obviously has an impact through the allocation of the general rate. So it does fall differently, but this time around we are seeing a greater shift towards residential properties who have had a larger than average increase in their land values.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Nixon, you comfortable with that? Thank you. Have a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Apatu? Oh, we have. Oh, thank you. That'll teach me for not concentrating on the job, reading my next papers. I'll put those recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you, that's carried. Thank you very much, team. Thank you, Richard, for all the work that you've done and such a huge journey. We have now the Hastings District Council Cyclone Gabriel Silt and Waste Recovery paper from our Mr. Cameron. Did you want to speak to your paper, Mr. Cameron? Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll generally take the paper as read. Pretty much the circumstances here, I've covered in the background of the report the legislation that backs your operational decision making that we have made since February. This was obviously all unbudgeted expenditures which were not envisaged in your annual plan. So the purpose of this paper is to update council on those expenditures and associated risks. The good news is in the silt and recovery, government funding's already come through and council's essentially cost neutral in that situation. Household waste recoveries, which council decided to do the uplift, removal and deposit. I've got in the recommendations there, the claim was expected to be about 4.2 million. I've just been advised that we're up to 4.6 million. Hopefully we'll recover all or most of that expenditure. Recommendation F there, I'm suggesting delegation to the Chief Executive to continue on with this service, which is winding down. But as some householders are still only just returning to their properties, there's still the service to be provided. That will obviously be an unbudgeted service going forward. That the delegation to the Chief Executive will give the operational decision as to when it's appropriate to wind that service up. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So the service will be ceased at the 30th of June? No?
Oh, sorry, Madam Chair, your access to funding for
I
reimbursement of that service concludes at the 30th of June. But it's envisaged that, well, the council can take the decision to continue that service, but you'll be doing that on the basis that you probably won't be able to recover funding for it. Because the access to the government funding concludes on the 30th of June.
So through you, Your Worship, I think what we're seeking to just make council aware of and get a decision is we're a very long way through the clean-up of, waste collection. But as Mr. Cameron said, not envisaging this is going to be a huge call going forward, but it's basically delegating to the Chief Executive to be able to continue to do that beyond the 30th of June, but noting that would be, anything more we do, which we're not anticipating to be much, would be unbudgeted. So I think the fundamental choice for council is, do you want to say that's it, tomorrow, or do you want the Chief Executive to retain some flexibility to continue to be able to, as...
I think we probably need a bit more information. Councillor Hickey?
Thank you, Bishop. Just with the officers, just in recommendation 2.B, if you're able to clarify, sorry, I was a bit confused between 2B and 2C. You say that the funding has been recovered for 2C, but yet for 2B? That's my first question.
Yes, Councillor. So the government's already announced the funding for the silt management and recovery, which is being administered by the Hawke's Bay Regional Council. They have already reimbursed reimbursed Hastings District Council for our silt waste collection management costs. Your household waste recovery, which is recommendation B, where council, well, we made the operational decision as an organisation under national emergency to uplift the household waste from their gates. That operation is where we've expended, well, at the time of writing this report, 4.2 million. We have a claim in for a designated government fund. It is a claim at this stage, so it is not yet money received by council. So there is a high degree of confidence that we will be reimbursed. It's just a question as to what level. So, yeah.
Just a supplementary question, Worship, just in regards to number 5, next steps. So it talks about 5.1, the scope of approvals yet to be determined. Do we have any information on the scoping information?
Through Madam Chair, regards the silt collection operations are now managed by the Hawke's Bay Regional Council, and they have the funding for that. So we don't anticipate there being a call on Hastings District Council for that. So the scope regards your household ongoing waste collections. If you give that delegation to the Chief Executive to continue, today's the 29th of June, so from next week, that would be unbudgeted expenditures if you decide to continue that service. The way the recommendation I have structured it is you're giving delegation to the Chief Executive to exercise his discretion in that space. So those would be, if you give that delegation, those would be unbudgeted expenditures essentially to wind up that household collection operation.
So could you tell me, please, from the Waste Task Force, how many jobs are currently logged to continue? Because we probably need a bit of an understanding of what this actually means.
I can't give you the number of jobs we've got to pick up in terms of household waste at this stage. I haven't got the information at hand, but I can give council an understanding of a wind down in the figures of expenditures. Perhaps another way of addressing the situation is to allocate an amount that you would be prepared to put into that space and set a cap on that, or council may make the decision to cease the service tomorrow.
So we're not talking silt here, we're talking household waste. And so we're going to have a few jobs that are bits and pieces that are still to be dealt with, but we don't know how many of those are.
Yes, so through you, Your Worship. I think in terms of conversations with Mr Henson and Mr de Klerk have been managing both the silt and household waste stuff. The reality is the silt stuff's all fine now. We've got $3.7 million back that we've incurred since February. There's a $70 million fund going forward that expires on the 30th of June next year. We have an agreed process with the regional council, all fine and silt. We are virtually through all of the household waste collection. I can think about some practical examples this week. There is household waste on Kotakipo Road that needs to be picked up. We're talking about at the margins now, but the reality is, in that household waste space, because it's a NEMA claim, it all ends, the claims had to be in, and that funding ends tomorrow on the 30th of June. So do you want to give me some flexibility to manage a very small number of household jobs that might go beyond the 30th of June, or do you want to say, no, look, 30th of June, that's all that the fund was available for, and we're not willing to incur any more costs in the household waste space after tomorrow. But it's, whilst I can't give you the exact numbers, Your Worship, we're talking about the vast majority of this has already been dealt with.
And in our community meetings, the officers talk to the community about not stopping this service until all the waste was collected. Councillor Nixon?
Thanks, Your Worship. Mr
Bickle partially answered my question already, but okay, so most of the household waste has been collected. I still see cars and debris sort of scattered around, but we all do. What, and as a percentage of the total, what might that represent? And since it's going to fall outside the current funding period, what is the likely cost, does he think, of that further amount to be picked up? And how will that be funded, or what percentage of rates might that represent?
Well, Councillor Nixon, we've just said, the Chief Executive's just outlined that he doesn't know and he doesn't thanks very much. Thank you. Councillor Sholem?
Thank you, Your Worship. I definitely wouldn't support cutting off our community at this point, so I think we need to carry on. I think the concern continues to be making sure that council isn't funding something that another party should be, in the sense of insurers, for example. So I'm just keen to understand if we are continuing this pickup knowing that there will be no other source of funding to offset these costs against, do we have a process to try and recover where possible from other parties where it's relevant?
Yes, through you, Your Worship. I think the point that I'd make is, like, we've got a really good team managing all of this, I think have some good processes, tried to strike the balance between being pragmatic and getting on and supporting our community with being prudent and not stepping into the lanes that are other people's responsibilities. It has been some of the challenges around things like vehicles on the side of the road. What is the responsibility of insurers versus councils? Geez, when it's in the road corridor and it's a danger, well, it's the sorts of things that we're doing on a daily basis. But I think I would recommend that you retain some flexibility for the Chief Executive to deal with, I think, what will be a small number of cases with a team that's pretty competent, and I think are making the right judgments around being prudent, but also supporting our community. We're a long way through this. This will be, because I don't have the exact data, but we're not talking about hundreds and hundreds of houses that still need their waste to be collected. It really is at the tail end.
Thank you. Given that we are in a rather agile environment, and such is the nature of natural disasters, I do think that we need to support giving you some flexibility, Mr. Chief Executive. However, equally, there is pressure upon us, based on your earlier report, around the financial impact that's going to be on our community soon, to keep a lid on costs wherever we can. So I'd like to move the recommendations with an amendment, which is adding an F, which would be that the Chief Executive report to Council at the next available meeting to provide an update on any outstanding, something to that effect, just so that we're kept in the loop, and that if for whatever reason things get out of hand, we can reconsider.
So we've got recommendation E here, Councillor Sholem, that says the Chief Executive will provide a project conclusion report. So rather than a conclusion report, you're saying an updated progress report.
Yeah.
Are you happy with that?
Yes, very happy with that.
Thank you, Councillor Nixon. So Councillor Sholem, you happy to move those recommendations? Councillor Nixon, you happy to second? Thank you, Councillor Kerr.
I wish to speak in support of the recommendations. I know when I drive through Esk Valley twice a day that there are bags of rubbish, household rubbish, still sitting in driveways, and it would be inherently unfair that if them further down the road had a collection and this family didn't. So completely support the recommendations and the fact we're going to be kept up to date. Thank you.
Thank you. And I also support the recommendations because I know that there's people still clearing out under their homes, and we've still got to, there are still furniture on the front yards and so forth that people are trying to work out what their future looks like as they manage through the land categorisations. Councillor Hickey?
And for the same reason, thank you, Worship, for the same reason as Councillor Kerr, I'd like to second the recommendations.
Seconder, Councillor Sholem, Councillor Nixon, thank you very much. So I'll put those recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you. That's carried. Thank you. Item number 11. And this is the parking controls. Welcome, Lachlan. Oh, we've got Bruce. Hello, Bruce.
Thank you, Your Worship and councillors. Generally, the report is relatively straightforward and should be taken as read. Just some queries that came up have been investigated for parking controls that make a lot of sense, serve the community. I do acknowledge, pass on thanks to Councillor Harvey for the illegal parking occurring with one of the unloading vehicles there. Certainly highlight
Photo, Councillor Harvey.
definitely highlight some of the problems, and especially around that area, but also looking at with loading zone as the other opportunities that can serve businesses as well. But happy to take any queries that arise.
Thank you, Bruce. Councillor Hickey?
Your Worship, I note that there was a concern or someone who disagreed with the recommendation or the changes. Have we gone back? Will we go back to that person and explain what we're doing? And thank you for their submission.
Through Madam Chair, yes, we will. There always is a response to those. Any consultation processes, a response does go back to them outlining the reasons as to why it's proceeded with. So I think that closes off the loop anyway. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Harvey?
Yes, thank you, and well-doctored photo too, since the branding's been taken off the side of the truck. More than happy to say the company name because the guy got quite aggressive. But anyway, the pressures that came about in that area have been due to us enhancing the area with that paving, and I just want to make sure that in the future, when we look to enhance an area with additional and wide paving, which we are actually now looking to do in the King Street area, that we are taking into consideration that these other pressures can arise, so that we need to make sure that there is an aspect of a loading zone or whatever. So, yeah, just in process or that when we go to do it, that we've got these sort of steps in place, because this has caused considerable friction between all of the property owners and their tenants in this area for some time, and it will take some repairing.
Thank you. Councillor Dixon?
Thank you, Worship. Just looking at that same zone in Queen Street, it's a 24/7 loading zone. Does it need to be that, or could it be for a restricted time frame?
Thank you. Thanks, Bruce.
Through you, Madam Chair, it'll be a P5 loading zone, and that P5 loading zone will pertain Monday to Sunday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. So it will be available after hours.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Nixon, have a seconder, please. Yeah, Councillor Dixon, thank you. No further comments? Put those recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you, that's carried. Thank you very much, Bruce. Item 12, Risk and Assurance Committee update. Very warm welcome to our independent chair, John Nichols, and Mr. Allen. So, John, are you taking us through the paper? Dresses? Okay, awesome. Great to see you. Thank you for coming.
Through you, Worship, just some introductory comments. So, Chair, Mr. Nichols here has requested a quarterly report through to Council on risk and assurance activities, and we thought through that process we'll take the opportunity. So it'll be doing one of probably three things: providing an update on certain issues and points from the likes of myself, bringing back any recommendations from the Risk and Assurance Committee to Council, and providing the opportunity for the Chair to report back on the committee's activities. But just to cover off in brief, just noting that Council resolved back in April to change the terms of reference, and I've provided some commentary there just really around the role that risk and assurance will play in this space. The impacts of Cyclone Gabriel, as the Chief Executive alluded to earlier, are significant in a financial sense, and they will be significant for a period of time. Council's financial strategy previously had been appropriately sort of aligned with investing in core infrastructure, looking at how we can transition large-scale renewals from debt funding to a more sustainable level of rates. But Cyclone Gabriel has fundamentally changed that, and council will need to work through a process of completely revisiting its financial strategy, and the Risk and Insurance Committee will have a key role in working through that process. So that's the purpose of that introductory comment. We're really forced to acknowledge that, and I'll hand over to the chair to.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Nichols.
Kia ora, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to be here today. I guess following on from what Bruce was saying, council's minutes are incredibly good. They're short bullet points, but they don't have any flavour. And I'm thinking, so I've relied on committee members or Mr. Allen to relay to the top table what we've been doing at Risk and Assurance, and that's probably not good enough. I should front and talk to you. Well, I prefer to do that, so if I do okay today, I hope you'll let me come back after the next future meetings. But as Mayor Sandra said, I am an independent, which was at recommendations of the Auditor General, but I still like to feel like I am part of this place. I really enjoy it, and I enjoy the management team and what council is doing in the community, particularly post-Cyclone Gabriel. I'll take my hat off and applaud you. So as being an independent, it's not hard to be an independent because everything's publicly available. So I can see what's going on the website. I talk to Bruce at least 3 or 4 times a month. Worship, Nigel, I make a real effort to find out what's going on. And what I've tried to do in this paper is just outline some of that. We have a real mix of stuff we do all the time and then special projects. So Treasury, managing interest rate risk through Treasury policy, liaising with the auditor. And just while we're on that issue, we're talking about debt issues before, but obviously when we go to value our assets at the end of June, which is tomorrow, some of the roading assets don't quite look like they did 12 months ago. So when you talk to the auditor, he's about 15 times, he said, I'll be looking at the value of those assets. So there'll be a lot of technical issues rolling through this year's accounts. So we have a whole bunch of standard stuff that we look at, as well as special projects. And a good example of that was Mayor Sandra a couple of years ago was talking about cyber risk. So we're able to say to the exec team that had an independent review done, show us the 20 or 30 things that really concern you out of those reports, and we were able to actually monitor that. And 2 or 3 meetings, they had most things ticked off. So, and then after that terrible disaster at was it Loafers in Wellington? Mayor Sandra rang me and said, I want on the agenda, how do we sit with that? That was before Minister Wood's letter had actually come out. So those are the sort of special projects that can come through Risk and Assurance, and we've worked really hard to make it, we're short in line out with only 4 or 5 councillors, and we have tried to encourage people, if they've got an idea or a thought, run it through Risk and Assurance first, and we can give some thoughts and guidance before it comes to you. And I think health and safety was a real good example of that. We saw all the draft reports and gave them feedback, and then it came through to you in final draft form. So we try hard to do that. I think we work really well together. There's a great cross-section, and I got a lot of commercial directorships, but I rate the quality of papers we get here right up there with anything I see in Tairāwhiti and everywhere else I go around the countryside. So the quality of papers is good. And Bruce, and where's Regan's down there, Regan and Steffi are really responsive. And I think Regan ran a couple of workshops recently around risk, because it's not a dark art, it's pretty straightforward. What are the 6 or 7 big risks? How are we managing them? And are we paying attention? So I've always enjoyed the committee, and this exec team has been great. One of the real, and also obviously post-Gabriel, the insurance issues when we go to do insurance renewal. So there's going to be a lot of technical stuff that if you run it through Risk and Assurance first, we can do some of that stuff before it comes to you, to be honest. That's our job as a technical assurance committee, really. But we have no power to do anything. We can only recommend, so that's quite healthy, quite safe, I think. One of our real passions is to support council around climate and sustainability issues. In the corporate environment that I'm kind of rolling in, it's really straightforward. 1, do we understand what climate could do to our organisation? I think that's fairly relevant for here. 2, do we know our carbon footprint, and what's our plan to reduce it. And the third one is, what of the UN sustainability goals do we want to adopt? So we want to, in risk and assurance, help and support council and a wider Hawke's Bay around climate. And I guess finally, the last thing, I'm more than happy to answer questions. The last thing, just leveraging off what the chief executive said, I'm really actually proud of this council front-footing the debt issue, to be honest. It is our nuclear moment. We owe 280 million today. We'll turn around and we'll be owing 560. We just got to be so careful that we understand our position. And I know Bruce and his team are working through to have papers ready for you for your retreat, to have a bit more detail to the draft slides you saw last time. So we don't have to panic about it, just have to be very measured. You've got Chris Finlayson in the tent, is that right? Yep. He's just fierce. So I saw that and applauded. I saw the Marty Sharp article and I thought, it's just calm and controlled, but focus, because not only if the debt goes up, it's risk and assurance's job to advise how do we manage that interest rate risk. Yeah. You know, do we take protection and insurance, or what do we do? So I applaud you for front-footing that, because it is a real big issue, as well as the human issues are huge for the council as well. So I just wanted to give you that assurance. And as Bruce said, I'd like to come here after each time we have a meeting, and then we'll have something specifically to talk to. But I just wanted to not wait till the end of July to do that, so I'd rather turn up today. So thank you for letting me come. I'm not quite as inspirational as those two young men that were up there before, but so I'm more than happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, John. Councillor Harvey?
Thank you, and good to see you, John. The last time I saw you, I think we were packing potatoes
We
at
were.
showgrounds. dirty and rotten potatoes.
We were.
Just a question in regards to 2.4.
Yep.
Review of asset management plans leading up to LTP review cycle.
Yep.
And we have had a couple of nasty surprises in regards to a couple of our expensive assets of late. Is that often enough?
That's a really good question. I was actually just chatting with Regan about that a couple of weeks ago. Typically, most of the boards I'm on are infrastructure boards, like I said, Eastland Group and Top Energy and Kiri and stuff, but that's done annually. So I think personally, rather than waiting for the 3-year LTP review, I think we can easily, because we get the executive summaries of the 5 asset management plans and talk about them, and get Craig to really explain what are all the issues in there. So I think that's a good suggestion. I think that should be on our annual plan at least, not 3 yearly. Thanks for that.
Councillor Kerr?
Thank you, Worship. John, I just want to acknowledge the step up that's happened within our risk and assurance committee since you've been involved, and also to the new executive team that have been wrapped around. So I'm sure Councillor Nixon will agree with me that we've certainly grown the mana of the committee and its value that it brings to council, and that's been led by you, so thank you. I'm happy to move the recommendations, Your Worship.
Awesome.
Thank you. Councillor Nixon, as a Deputy Chair, did you want to add anything? Thank you. Great. Any further comments or any further questions to John? Very, very difficult time as we navigate the next month. And it's great to have you here as an extra set of eyes and ears for us to manage as we work through this very challenging space of how we can afford our recovery for our people. Thank you very much, John. I'll put those recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you. That's carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, John. Summary of the recommendations of Rural Halls Subcommittee held on the 29th of May. Does either Councillor Butter or Councillor Kerr want to present this paper, please?
Thank you, Your Worship. We worked through these in the committee. I would like to note that we received over $400,000 worth of applications to a fund where we could dispense $55,000, which made it a bit more challenging. A number of these halls that the funds were dispersed to were integral in the cyclone response, and it's really good to be able to invest in them and the resilience of their associated communities. Happy to take any questions if anyone has any.
Councillor Kerr?
And through the PGF fund in the past, we've been able to invest significantly in a couple of our halls, but this report highlights the incredible need of additional funding for these very special places. Many are historic, many are war memorial halls, and somehow we are going to need to unlock more money for these communities. I don't know the answer yet, but we know the question.
Thank you. And I think that the Rural Community Board, need to bring back a recommendation to council at the LTP time. And because what's happened post-cyclone is that many of our rural communities are setting up resilience plans, and the halls are becoming more and more important places under resilience for future communities. So I think that's been very helpful to look at that piece of work. Okay, thank you. Are you happy to move, Councillor Butto? Councillor Kerr, second. Thank you. I'll put those recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you, that's carried. Thank you. We've got the proposed amendments to schedule of meetings. Welcome, Louise. Any questions, councillors? Thank you. Councillor Dixon, seconded Councillor Sholem. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you, that's carried. Thank you very much. Well, concludes our council meeting today. We have some informal items for the Chief Executive and I to discuss with you, but thank you to our community who have joined us today, and we will just close our council meeting today with a karakia. Thank you, Councillor Heke.
I'd like to volunteer to close for karakia, if that's okay with the rest of the councillors, unless there's anything else to say. Kia tau kia tātou katoa te ata whai o tō tātou are ki ai Ukraiti. Me te aroha o te atua me te whiwhinga taitanga ki te wairua tapu. Ake, amen. Kia ora.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Henry. Do we want to, so we've shut down, Lynn? Thank you. Thank you to our team. We'll have a couple